ever worked on a big cross-stitch project, or maybe even a small to medium-sized one, and wondered what the best way is to deal with excess fabric? This is especially a consideration if, like me, you stitch in hand. And my answer is to roll with it. So stay tuned and I'll show you exactly what I do. Hi there, Stitchy friends. I'm Kat from Catkin and Lily, bringing you all the best tips, tricks and tutorials so you can learn more about all things stitchy, grow your stitching skills and get the most joy from your stitching. First up, I need to say that this isn't a comprehensive video covering all the different ways you can manage excess fabric. The methods may well be different depending on what sort of hoop or frame you use or if you're stitching in hand. Since I don't generally use any kind of hoop or frame, I'm not going to discuss fabric management for those in this video. Although some of the things I mention will also work for hoops and frames, so it's still worth a watch. I'm going to show you what I do to wrangle my fabric into something manageable while I stitch in hand. I made a previous video with 7 tips for storing your whips, that's works in progress. So if you haven't seen that video, then definitely check it out, as it could save you from some very annoying mishaps. I'll link it in a card up there and in the description. Now, one of my favourite tips from that video is to roll your fabric, to reduce nasty creases forming that can be really tricky to remove when you're finished. And one lovely viewer asked if I could share more about how I actually do the rolling. So, that's what I'm going to do. Before I dive into how I roll the fabric, I'll show you what I use to keep it all secured. I've seen lots of different options, such as small binder clips, or what I would call bulldog clips, clothes pegs, food bag clips, hair ties, hair clips, and of course a range of magnetic clips and even some specific fabric huggers. Now, whatever you use, I would suggest making sure it's something that doesn't get in your way while you're stitching, so probably not something too big. Something that isn't too heavy, something that won't put hard creases in your fabric and doesn't have any risk of leaving marks on your fabric or damaging it. Now, these magnetic clips have become very popular, but do watch out because some of them aren't really strong enough and can ping open. Or they can get stuck to other things. I already lose my scissors when they get stuck to the underside of needle minders, so I'm not sure I need any more magnetic items around. My absolute favourites are these, which are sewing clips, because they tick all the boxes. They're small and neat, so they tuck into a roll of fabric really easily and they don't get in the way or add a lot of weight. They're pretty inexpensive, you can just buy really big bags of them and they come in rainbow colours, which makes me very happy. And I can even match the colours to my project. If I have a larger roll of fabric, then I can just use multiple clips. You can find these in many shops and of course on Amazon. I've seen them listed there as sewing clips, quilting clips and wonder clips. I'll leave the link to these ones that I bought on Amazon just so you can see exactly what they are. I do vary the way I roll my fabric depending on the size of the project, the type of fabric and where I've started stitching from. So I'll take you through my most common setups. I'll also make sure to leave links to any of the projects that I show in the description, just in case any take your fancy. For medium to large projects, such as this one, I prefer to start stitching from the bottom and work my way up. So I'll start by rolling the top of the fabric down, and I've got a clip, one on each end. If when I start I've got excess at the bottom, I may also roll this up, but if there isn't much, then I'll just leave it loose like this to start with. And then once I've started stitching, I just roll the fabric up. Roll that up to where you can see I'm working on now. And then at the end, I'll just take my clip and put it through the roll of fabric. And the same on this end as well. Just tuck my clip. So the clip just goes through the fabric here and into the middle of the roll. And then as I work my way up the project, I'll continue rolling up from the bottom and then unrolling the top. So I've always got a central strip that I'm working on. Someone did point out that I've essentially made my own fairly flexible scroll frame by doing this. I like to leave enough fabric visible in here for me to work on, and especially enough space at the top to have this roll of fabric at the top. This rests on my knee when I'm working, and this helps to take the weight of it and makes it easier to then hold the roll of fabric at the bottom while I'm working. Now, I don't often start stitching at the top of the fabric, but if I did, I would just reverse this process. Now, I have also been known to switch things up and roll the sides in rather than the top and bottom. I find this works better if I have stiffer fabric. So generally if I'm working with Aida rather than even weave or linen. When the fabric's very stiff, having a roll at the bottom can be harder to hold and a little more tiring for my hand. Whereas having the roll at the left-hand side and holding that as I stitch, that's a much more comfortable position for my hand than holding a roll at the bottom. This is actually still not particularly stiff fabric, so it's not the best to show you on, but I actually didn't have any Aida projects at the moment to show you. I also find that rolling from the sides works better for the very largest of projects, such as this one, my huge full coverage project, which is Dragon Race Into the Night. I've started over here on the left-hand side. You can see how much fabric I've got rolled up on the right-hand side, and in fact I have used, in this situation, I've used 2 clips to hold that roll together. But imagine by the time I've stitched all the way across, and this side has got rolled up even more, trying to hold such a huge thick roll like this at the bottom, it would be quite uncomfortable. It's much more comfortable to hold a large roll of fabric in my left hand. I also find that rolling from the sides on a large project, which is very, very long, allows me to bend the fabric in half. Like this, I can bend the bottom half underneath and then rest that bottom section on the sofa. Again, just helps to take the weight of all that fabric. One other thing to mention is that I mostly store my whips rolled up. So I just roll them like this, and I can store them like this, and they're good to go whenever I want to work on them. The clips at the end aren't going to damage the project. I won't get any creases in the fabric, so there's no problem with me leaving them like this for as long as I need. But for smaller projects, I do tend to store the fabric flat, and yes, maybe even folded up like this, if it's one that I expect to be finished fairly quickly. So for these projects, I often still roll the fabric up in order to work on it. I may have clips on hand that I can use to keep it in place, or I might just roll it up and then hold it in my hand while I'm working on it. If you're an in-hand stitcher, then I hope this has given you some ideas for dealing with excess fabric. And as I said, it may have given you some inspiration even if you use a hoop or frame. If I've left you curious to know more about why I love stitching in hand, then I have a video called Do I Need to Use a Hoop to Cross Stitch?, which might be helpful for you. And if you do fancy giving it a go, then my video with 7 tips for cross stitching without an embroidery hoop could be just the thing to give you the confidence to try it. If you enjoyed this video, I would be delighted if you gave it a like, and do make sure to subscribe to my channel for more stitchy tips and tutorials, which will also ensure that they can reach and help more cross stitchers. If you're looking for more support from me and a fabulous community of stitchy friends, then I'd love for you to join my Patreon membership. You can find advice and inspiration and enjoy extra stitchy chat videos and regular live Q&As with me. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stitching!